The Panthers right now, meaning the Carolina Panthers, are in a really interesting offseason. There's a lot going on, right? Even the funny part is, even the stuff that hasn't changed is like news, right? The fact that you have the same coach, the same GM, you have so much coming back for a second straight year feels fresh and new. It feels like something that deserves to be talked about. Then you mix in that you drafted 8th overall a wide receiver and everybody's jacked up on that. Then you mix in that this defense will be completely reworked, right? And even something like Derrick Brown. Derrick Brown's been around, but he wasn't, so now he's back, and that feels fresh and new. We talked about the schedule release today, right? And they're playing the Niners on Monday Night Football in late November. That's different, right? Monday Night Football for the Panthers, that's a little fun. There's a lot going on, and I think it's important that obviously fans can think whatever they want. I'm not saying it's important in a meaningful, like you're going to change the outcome of the game, but I do think if you want to be honed in, be lasered in on what the Panthers are going to be trying to do this upcoming year, you need to make sure that Chuba Hubbard is right there in the middle of it. And more specifically, right, we always say it's the running back, but it's the running back paired with the offensive line. The engine is still the same. I think the Panthers this year are just to use that analogy right there, they are a car that has a new paint job. They got new leather interior. They like everything. They got the it's like Pimp My Ride, right? They threw televisions and a bunch of the headrests. Like, it is a different car, but if you pop the hood, it's the same engine. And that's the part you elected to keep. That's the part you elected not to change up. It is the offensive line and Chuba Hubbard. The new and the fancy is nice, but you have to remember where your bread is buttered. And on top of that, I was vocal, right? I didn't love the idea of paying Chuba Hubbard what they ended up paying him. He ended up being, as of this morning, and it actually changed since I wrote this down, he was the 12th highest paid running back in average annual value, but he was one spot above Derrick Henry, who got a fat contract extension today. So Chuba Hubbard's the 13th highest paid running back in the NFL in average annual value on their contracts. Right below now Joe Mixon, right? So that's the type of volume and production you need, and probably even a little more than that if you want to have a positive return on that investment. And then all of the cool doodads and gadgets that you've added become even better. Right? The Pimp My Ride thing just kind of happened. I wasn't even planning on talking about it. But have you read any of the articles? They come out once every 4 or 5 years on like the where are they now, the cars of Pimp My Ride, and darn near none of them were even like drivable like a year after the show ended. Maybe they were drivable. Maybe I'm being a little dramatic. But my point is, the fish tank that you put in the back seat, those fish weren't still alive.
No.
6 years later, if you know what I'm getting at there. The engine really becomes the most important part. And as long as the car's still driving, everything's running smooth, then you enjoy the highly drafted wide receivers. Tetairoa McMillan, he works best. Really, every wide receiver works best, but darn sure a rookie that there are things that I think he needs to develop, but he's physically a really interesting piece. He works best when the defense is focused on stopping the run. Right? If you don't have safety help over the top and he can win a one-on-one, or even if he doesn't win the one-on-one and create separation, he can out-jump and out-contested catch one guy, that's huge. So run the ball enough that becomes the focus and safety start creeping into the box and everything else, and then now you get to beat him with your 8th overall pick wide receiver. The edge rushers that we talk about, right? They moved on from Jadeveon Clowney. They bring in Pat Smith out of Minnesota in free agency. Pat Jones? Did I mix it up? Smith Jones. I knew it was one of those generic names.
One of those guys.
I got Pat right.
Nailed it.
And then you bring in Nick Scorton and Princely Umanmielen. got those right.
You nailed that one.
Second round and third round edge rushers, their job is easier if the running game does two things. One, give them a lead. Two, give them a break. Right? Get the lead, score points, run for touchdowns. Two, pick up first downs, keep the chains moving, keep the defense, meaning the Panthers defense, off the field so they can come into the game with a lead and fresh legs, pin their ears back, get after the quarterback. That's the ideal. And by the way, it's not a secret. Right? That, like when Dave Canales took over, it was very much him on Front Street. Just, hey guys, we want to run the ball.
Run the ball, play action.
They went out and spent $150 million on guards. And we're ahead of the trend there because this offseason, a bunch more money has been spent on guards, interior offensive linemen across the league. They spent a bunch of money on guards. When Dave Canales took the job, the thing that I noticed the most when he was the offensive coordinator in Tampa Bay, Rachaad White got the ball a bajillion times. He was second in the league in touches to Offensive Player of the Year Christian McCaffrey. Like that was Dave Canales. And he came up under Pete Carroll, right? That's where he really cut his NFL coaching teeth, under Pete Carroll in Seattle. Pete Carroll just drafted a running back 6th overall. They run the ball. So the reason why I bring it up today is because it's a day where there's a lot going on. Every 20 minutes, we're learning another game. By the way, Bills at Panthers, Week 8. Talked about it earlier. I already brought it up once. The Monday night game against the Panthers at the Niners will be Week 12 on November 24th. Like, we're learning every couple of minutes another game. There's a lot going on. There's still a couple free agency decisions to make, and I thought it was a good day to go, despite all of that, and despite all the frenzy, and despite all the new, and despite all of the excitement, you still probably need like 20 carries of Chuba Hubbard and 100-something yards most games if you want to go ahead and win.
I said the stat, I think it was either yesterday or last week. The Panthers' run block win rate was 10th best in the NFL. As an offensive line as a whole, run block win rate 10th best in the NFL. That means they won their matchups one-on-one. The offensive line did. The 10th best out of any offensive line in the league. Yeah, lean on that. Also, look at some of the advanced numbers for Chuba Hubbard this past year. Rushing yards over expected, 2nd best in the NFL, like per attempt.
Pretty good.
Rushing yards over expected, like the percentage, was best in the NFL. So he's actually getting more yards than even as great as the offensive line is blocking, he's still getting more yards expected per carry. So he's even doing more than what he probably should get than an average runner would. So he's doing that work too. Yes, lean on that. Lean on that entirely because it's only going to, like you said, it's only going to help Bryce and it's only going to help these young receivers hopefully get one-on-one matchups. And then hopefully you alleviate some help on the box. Now you can run it even better.
One of my favorite reminders for athletes, sports teams ever is strengthen your strengths. Right? It's easy. I don't want to say easy, but it's obvious to go into an offseason with weaknesses and say, that's where we should put all of our attention. That's where we should put all of our effort. And without acknowledging, like, even the things you did well last year should still be worked on because those can be the difference makers. You know, the way our coach used to say it in college was that can be what we major in. Right? Sure, you need your general knowledge classes. You need to go take your geologies and everything. But what's your major? The Panthers will always, under Dave Canales, major in run first. Then play actions and everything build off of it, but run first will be their major. You can go get a minor in, like, you know, deep ball to Tetairoa McMillan, but your major is going to be running. It's going to be the rush offense. It's going to be controlling tempo. That's what he believes in. So believe in it. Even when all the crazy's happening, believe in it. I always think it's funny when, like, you know, oh, we're going to air it out. Why? You're good at running the ball last year. Just add like 10% more passing to stay balanced. You don't have to go too crazy. You know, Steph Curry doesn't go, I wasn't great at finishing at the bucket my 3rd year, so I'm going to stop shooting threes. It's like, no, I'm just going to try to drive to the bucket enough and be successful enough to keep them honest so I can keep knocking down threes at an elite level.